everybody, and thank you for patiently waiting. Welcome to our National Graduate Week. I'm your host, Josh from Career.TV, TV, and today we're joined by JLR. During this session, we'll learn what it's like to work at JLR and get some great insights from current employees. There will be a Q&A segment at the end of the webinar, so feel free to leave any questions in the chat box and we'll get back to them after the presentation. So without further ado, I'll now pass it over to the JLR team to start their session. Off you go, guys.
Thank you, Josh, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on National Graduate Week. And hopefully during the course of the next hour or so, we can give you a little bit of insight into JLR and who we are, what types of programs we offer, and particularly on the graduate scheme side of it. You'll get to hear from some of the current graduates we have on a range of different programs across the corporate space, engineering space, and manufacturing side as well. And then, of course, we'll talk through the application process and give you as many hints and tips as we can that will hopefully help you out in applying for JLR or also other companies for that matter as well. I'm going to just start first before we go through the slides with just a very quick poll, just to see how confident people are feeling about applying for graduate positions. So I'm making that live now, and hopefully you can see that on your screens. And if you just rate on a scale of 1 to 4, how confident you feel about applying for graduate positions. I'm going to give it 20, 30 seconds or so, and then just see where we're at. Okay, getting a few answers through already, and some confident people, which is good. And hopefully, I'm guessing because it's sort of end of October and you've probably been to careers fairs and bits and bobs by now, then hopefully you've learned a few things already, and maybe we could just top that up. So yeah, there's quite a lot of people in the somewhat confident and very confident stage, which is good. But hopefully we can bump everybody up a rank by the end of this session, so in the next hour or so. So thank you. Right. So just to introduce JLR, or you might know us as Jaguar Land Rover, we are essentially a house of brands. So we are Range Rover, Defender, Discovery, and Jaguar, obviously in the automotive industry. And each of these brands is a global brand, but each with its own different sort of modernist design philosophy and unique sense of style. Each with its own client basis, strategies, this, that, and the other. They are very unique brands and then put together form JLR. We operate globally, as I mentioned, in terms of, I guess, my remit and the remit of this webinar. We are focused on the UK and the graduate schemes that we offer there, but there are roles across places like India, China, Slovakia, North America, to name a few as well. And most of our roles in the West Midlands most of our roles in the UK tend to be based in the West Midlands, in places like Coventry and also Warwickshire for Gaydon. But we do have a couple of roles also in Liverpool, Manchester, for example, and other areas across the West Midlands too. Just to introduce myself as well, because I always tend to miss that off. I am Sam, and I'm the University Engagement Lead at JLR. So I've been doing this role for about 3 years now. But I started myself as an undergraduate back in 2016 on JLR's placement scheme. Managed to have a good placement year and got to come back as a graduate in 2018, and then completed that program in 2020. So I've very much been on the other side of this screen and in your shoes, and looking for tips and advice and thinking about where to apply to. So I've kind of done that before, gone through JLR's process, and now I recruit for JLR's graduate and undergraduate program. So very full circle. And I won't go through all the details of this, but essentially this is our reimagined strategy, which kind of underpins all of the work that we're trying to do and accomplish as a brand and what our key goals are. So in here, you will see things around electrification. You will see commitments around sustainability and how we can become net zero. I think by 2039, mentions our Jaguar brand, for example, and which is going all electric and is truly a copy of nothing. And that's happening next year. So there's a lot of exciting things going on at JLR, and I think it's a really good time to join and be part of that journey. But also, I think with this reimagined strategy, this is something that's really important to know and understand and reference in applications. Companies want to see that you've done a bit of research, and this is sort of the first thing really that you should know about JLR. So you could definitely reference some of these points in your application. There might be one of those things on the list that really stands out to you, for example. But also you can use that in your interview as well, potentially, and reference some of the points on here and show that you've done your research, which definitely does help during the process. So in terms of finding the right graduate scheme for you, I thought I'd just give a couple of tips right at the start. So I think it's definitely worth thinking about what types of roles are available based on the degree that you do. For some people, there might be a whole raft of jobs available in a million different industries. And for others, it might be something quite specific that you study, and perhaps that's the pathway you want to follow, which might limit the market a little bit more, but definitely worth thinking about what roles, what roles are available. And then also what industries. So, if you are doing, let's say, mechanical engineering, you could go into the automotive industry, which we're in, but there's lots of other different industries as well that you can apply those skills. Using your careers service as well at university, they are criminally underused, and I won't speak like I was golden at university either, because I definitely wasn't and didn't use them enough myself. But having been on the other side now and worked with them for a couple of years, I can tell you that they are absolutely there to help. They speak to companies like us and many others to understand what we offer, and they can really help you navigate through the assessment processes as well. But using websites like CareerMap, Rate My Placement, Grad Cracker, the different job boards that you've got at university, they are all super useful sources of information. And we've just talked about that research piece, but really helps you to prepare. And it's about making sure that you're thinking about what skills and experiences you have, and we'll come on to a bit of that later on, but how they sort of align to the role. And if you can bring out that in your application and talk about what interests you about the role and what impact you think you could have in it, then I think that's a really good start to making a successful application to any graduate program. So just to run you through the programs that we have at JLR. So I'll focus on the grad side more, but just for context, we offer 12-month undergraduate placements, and then we offer the 2-year graduate scheme. The graduate scheme is a permanent contract from day one, so it's not like a temporary contract and then fight at the end for a bunch of positions. It is a permanent contract from the moment that you join it. And students can apply when they're in their final year, perhaps in their master's year, for example, or even as career changes if you've been in industry for 2 years, 10 years, 30 years, whatever it might be. There's no sort of age or experience limit on our graduate program. The basic requirement is that you need to have the eligibility, and that comes in 2 sort of senses really, or 3 senses. One is you need to be on track or have achieved a 2.2 or higher. One is that it needs to be in a sort of relevant degree. As I say, some of our roles are super open. So program management, which is a brand new pathway for this year, you can apply with any degree background. So it doesn't matter if you did law, sport, engineering, business, you can apply with all of them. Whereas something like software engineering, you would need to be applying with a computer science type background or a couple of other similar degrees. And then the third piece is around international students. So unfortunately, international students are ineligible for any of our programs that we offer this year. So that is a really important note to make in the context of applying for our roles. You wouldn't be able to apply for an undergraduate placement or a graduate scheme with us. That includes if you're on a student visa or a post-study work visa as well. So I just wanted to make that clear up front, because I know that is often one of the most common questions that we get. So yeah, the graduate program is 2 years. You can see the range of different roles that we offer here. So across engineering, you've got your manufacturing engineering side as well, supply chain, data, program management, various other pathways as well. You will notice that a couple are in grey, and there is a reason for that. The reason is that those programs are closed already. You didn't miss the boat, so they didn't open and then quickly close, other than the business strategy one. But actually, because of our undergraduate returner demand, essentially those roles haven't opened for applications yet this year, and they are unlikely to. But what I would advise is if there is a role that you're interested in with JLR and it's not currently open, then there will be other roles that you can still apply to. And I would strongly advise applying to one that is open and not hedging your bets on something else. And then if a role comes up, like commercial, for example, that you originally wanted to apply for, then you can speak to our recruitment team and we will switch you over, no problem, into that requisition. We just don't want people to miss out entirely by putting all of their eggs on commercial opening, and then it doesn't, essentially. But all the roles pretty much are open now, other than those ones in grey. There are some that actually close tomorrow by midnight. So get your applications in as soon as possible. There are a few others as well that close this time next week. So you've got a little bit more time on them, but still definitely a really short space of time in that window. So make sure you apply as soon as possible. And just to give you a bit of, depth on what the graduate program actually covers, and the grads I've got with me today, I'm sure can talk around this a lot more because they're experiencing it right now. But just to do a brief overview, there's an insights discovery that you'll do right near the start, which gives you the sort of colour profiles if you've never done it before, the red, green, blue, yellow, and it helps you. It definitely helped me understand your working styles, what you're good at, what you're maybe not good at, how people should work with you, etc. So it's actually quite a useful piece in the context of being on the grad program and working with your manager and stuff like that. You've got the Ashland Core Skills program, which you'll do across year one. So there are different modules that you'll be involved in, like personal skills, self-management, etc., which is kind of nice because it keeps you in that sort of curriculum feeling when you come in straight from university. Still gives you some bits to learn and grow on that soft skills side of things in particular. You'll have some brand immersion, some ride and drives. That's always one of the best things I think at working at JLR, is being able to get in the vehicles and have fun. So there's the ride and drive experiences as well as manufacturing tours as well. So it's definitely good to see our facilities, learn a bit more about our history as well, and you'll get to do that there. And then into second year, the things to call out is there's some optional experiences. So we are, in our team, early careers is one of the optional experiences you can have, where you can spend a week with our team. But there's many others as well across like quality, commercial, other different areas. And you'll have your manufacturing week as well. So you'll actually spend a week on the shop floor, essentially working on our vehicles hands-on, which is a really interesting experience. It's difficult and it's definitely not easy working in shifts in that way, but I think it gives you a really good grounding to understand actually one of the most important parts of what we do is that area and making those vehicles, and without those people that do that, we wouldn't exist. So it really does give you that grounding. And then I think one of the most exciting bits of the grad scheme is in the second year. It's the Graduate Innovation Challenge. So essentially this is something that you work cross-functionally with a bunch of different graduates on business problems that have been set by different managers around the business, and you work together to tackle those problems, and then you'll present at the end. And then I think they have kind of a short list and some winners, and I think potentially the winner gets some money to actually implement their project. I might be wrong with that, but it's a really cool part of the graduate scheme, and one that I know lots of people enjoy. And then across the grad schemes, you can see that sort of piece at the bottom. You will do placements and rotations, so it's not just a case of going into one job and that's what you do for the rest of the time. You definitely get the chance to move around and see lots of different things. So depending on the area will depend on the length of placement. For some people, they do 2 12-month placements. For some people, they do 4 6-month placements, and some are even more frequent than that as well. But yeah, you really get the chance to build that sort of professional development and create more generalist experience for yourself. So you're not just pigeonholed into a particular career. You've got the chance to see quite a few areas, which I think is really helpful. And then I won't cover all of these in loads of detail, but just some benefits of working here. I think one to call out is definitely the community. I think it can be difficult to transition from university into corporate life, essentially, and working in a professional job. And the community really supports you to do that. As well as that, they run a bunch of social events. So if you kind of enjoyed the social days of university, then you can definitely still have that at JLR. You might not be going out drinking as many drinks on a Wednesday night with work on Thursday, However, you can still have some fun, of course. But they have like ski trips, sports teams, summer and Christmas parties, lots of different sort of extracurricular type activities. There's also good benefits like discounts on vehicles, high street discounts, good annual leave, flexible working. So we have the hybrid working policy in place where you can mix working at home and working in the office across most of our roles. So yeah, some really good benefits of working for JLR. And it's important to call out that we're here to support you as well. So you have your line manager, obviously, everyone will have that, and they will be there to support you. But you'll also have the early careers delivery team, and that's a team that's dedicated to helping you. So you'll have a cohort leader that you can go to for any queries, escalations, problems. They will be happy to help. You'll have one-to-ones with them every so often as well, so they can check in on your progress and make sure that you're doing well, feeling good, and working well towards completing the graduate program. And then you've got the early careers hub as well, and the community of people around you. And I thought it's just worth sharing our diversity networks at JLR, because I think this is one of the really great bits about the company. And when people ask me sort of what's the culture like at JLR and things like that, then this is definitely one of the things that I really lean towards. When I started in 2016 and when I came back in 2018 as a grad, some of these networks didn't exist, and the ones that did were kind of just, I felt, were just there to meet like-minded people. But now I think they're really driving the business forward. They're working on really exciting agendas. They're doing a lot of recognition events. We've had lots of stars like Anthony Joshua and people that have come to JLR as ambassadors within these networks, which has been amazing. We've had 2 years now of D&I summits where we bring everyone together to celebrate diversity and inclusion. But whether you have a characteristic that perhaps lends to you belonging to one of these particular groups, or actually you just want to be an ally to them, I know that I'm part of most of the groups on screen, and it's really good to connect with colleagues in this different way. And I think you can potentially get committee type roles in these networks as well when you're on a graduate program and beyond, and that gives you a couple of hours a week to actually work on D&I network specific activity, which I think is really fun as well, and a cool side part to the job. But I think that's enough from me now, speaking for a little bit. So I'm going to run a little panel session where we will speak to some of our current hires that are on program. So I guess, first of all, for David, Amrita and Matt, do you want to just introduce yourselves? So where you studied and what degree you did, and then what program you're on now at JLR. David, I'll start with you.
Hello, I'm David. Nice to meet you guys. So I studied at Coventry University. I did manufacturing engineering. So I thought it'd be appropriate to do the manufacturing grad scheme. Yep, that's me.
Cool.
All right. So I'm Amrita. So I did electrical engineering at the University of Birmingham, and I joined JLR on the Electronic and Complex Systems grad scheme. So I'm currently working in a department called ADAS, which is part of the wider electrical band. And we do some really cool stuff about autonomous driving and active safety systems. Yeah, that's me.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Matt. I studied Geography and Natural Hazards at Coventry University, and I applied to do the Strategy and Sustainability grad scheme, which is now known as Business Strategy. So I was based in sustainability partnerships, but I'm currently working in Range Rover brand strategy.
Amazing. Thank you. So no, I think you're all into your second years of the graduate scheme, so you've already spent a little bit of time with us. So it'd be great to know, and I'll start again with you, David, what you're currently working on and maybe what exciting projects that you've been involved in so far.
Okay, yeah, so the main project I've been involved with is in Body in White. So Body in White is where we make the car body frames out of aluminium and steel and things. And it's for the new electric Range Rover. So I'm allowed to say that part because we've already seen a few teaser videos that have been released. But that's all I'm going to say. So yeah, but also a few other projects here and there, working on quality management, updating like our documentation that's fallen behind. But also a new project that I'm going to be on now is putting together a test cell for some new equipment in Castle Bromwich, so it should be interesting.
Cool. So yeah, a range of different things that you've already worked on, and I think touched on sort of one of the exciting bits is, I think one of the cool things about working at JLR is you're working on a physical product, and not just any product, but one that is genuinely really exciting. And then you sort of see it come to life. So you're talking about the new electric Range Rover, and that's obviously just recently, recent enough, been launched. And it's really exciting, I think, seeing the work that you're doing, and then actually it's out there suddenly. Some people work on cars that are 26, 28 model year and beyond. Which obviously they can't share much about, but then you eventually see it come to the forefront. Thank you for sharing. Amrita, I'll hand over to you next.
So I've been involved in really cool projects as well, from both software and hardware perspective. So the team I'm working in obviously does all the ADAS features, which I guess is an acronym that most of you won't have heard of, but we do autonomous driving and active safety features. So all the assistance system that, if you've had the chance to go into a Jaguar project or a Range Rover project, you might have seen on the steering wheel. So I've done a lot of testing in cars, had the opportunity to go on some night testing where we've had a police officer follow us so we can test some of the features. I've had a really good opportunity to work in SV, which is really exciting. It was more from a hardware perspective, so I was working on interior trim. And you get loads of perks if you work for SV. You get to drive around with it, an off-road day. Got to go down the track, 160 miles an hour, which is good fun. And yeah, you get involved in really cool things. There's loads of teams and societies. The Women in Engineering Society is one of them, which I'm part of. And we host really cool events. And it kind of encourages people in engineering roles to get involved in supporting women and just generally making the workplace more inclusive. But yeah, I'll leave it.
Amazing. It's really good that you've talked about so many different experiences in engineering, but also on the women in engineering side as well, and touched on that network piece, because there's some really, it's not just all about the day job all the time. There's some really good things that you can get involved in on the side. That's just one example, but I know there's so many different things as well. So it's really nice that you've touched on that. Thank you. And Matt, I'll just hand over to you finally.
Yeah, so I've been involved in some really cool stuff. So I was in the racing team before coming to my current placement, and I was involved in Jaguar TCS Racing winning the World Championship, which was really a fantastic experience. So I got to go down to the finale in London, and I got to support a career development piece that they were doing. So we had some students come down, secondary school students from across the country, and I got to tell them all about Formula E, all about the racing team, about JLR and early careers, and then watched the finale race with them where we won the World Championship. But similar to Amrita, I've done some work with the networks as well. So I've been involved in JLR starting its newest network, the Young Professionals Network, which is aimed at young professionals all across the business, sort of like graduates, undergraduates, apprentices, but then people who have just started in the business as well, not in early career schemes, getting them support, getting them set up, which has been a really fantastic experience.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I know I've seen a couple of things you've been involved in. I think it's some really exciting areas, which you said, like the motorsport, for example. I think lots of people definitely envy that one for sure. So, thank you for sharing. So, just gonna move back to second panel question, and I am going to ask you why you actually chose to do a graduate scheme, and also then why at JLR. So, David, I'll start with you.
Cool. So, I mean, firstly, it kind of made sense for me because I did the manufacturing engineering degree So I went straight into, like, I aimed for the manufacturing, industrial operations manufacturing graduate role. I chose JLR because I knew they're such a reputable company. I mean, also my uncle, he went through the same kind of grad scheme, not in the same role, but he's in like the finance sector of the company. But he told me about how, you know, you can do your placements and you know, it's really kind of intuitive, really good for developing yourself. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, also JLR is really competitive pay for a grad scheme, so that was pretty attractive to me too. Yeah, and just I thought it would be really good to go into a grad scheme from uni to kind of kickstart my career, really, get me on the right track, and kind of it's quite a good transition, I'd say, as well, from university and graduating into your long-term career.
Yeah, definitely. I think that sort of piece around coming from university, a lot of people will have got their degree but don't necessarily know exactly what they want to go into and do. And I think a graduate scheme's good, especially with ours and the rotations you do, just to get that broader feeling and have those couple of years where there's a bit more learning involved, seeing different things before you maybe commit in the future to a certain type of career. So yeah, some good things that you've shared. Thank you. Amrita, why did you choose to do a graduate scheme, and why specifically JLR?
I've grown up around JLR projects my entire life. So my dad's been working here for nearly 40 years. So from pretty much day one, my cars at home have been Range Rovers, etc. But then I've also been involved. So the company do a lot of family activities. So pretty much every year I was dragged on the bring your child to work day. But it really inspired me. And my dad is not necessarily the reason I chose to work here, but I think being exposed to the different types of people and getting to talk to the women especially, it's really inspiring. They kind of push me to focus on things that I wouldn't necessarily think of, especially when I was at school. So yeah, I think that exposure to JLR pretty much solidified what I wanted to do very early on. But on top of that, it is a good grad scheme. It's quite supported. I speak to some of my friends doing other grad schemes. They don't have early careers teams, for example. The pay is also good. And I live quite local. So for me, it was kind of ticked all the boxes, I guess.
Amazing. No, thank you for sharing. Really appreciate that. And you know, we got lots of people that kind of have JLR in their family and things like that, which is always really nice. And you know, you see it come forward, but also there's plenty of people that apply to, and they're like not car fanatics. And I get the questions sometimes like, do I need to know loads about the cars or love all the cars? And it's not the case. You don't need to, but I think that you find that when you're working on our luxury vehicles, you do tend to fall in love with them a little bit more. Matt, I'll hand over to you. Why did you choose to do a graduate scheme, and why JLR?
So when I finished my degree, I had like literally no idea what I wanted to do. I just did not have any clue. And one of my friends joined JLR on a graduate scheme. And so I was looking at like full-time jobs in things really relating to my degree. So I did a lot on climate change and things like flooding and hurricanes in my third year. So I was looking at like working for the Met Office and stuff, and none of it really appealed to me that much. And my friend then said, well, have you considered doing something more like corporate and more to do with sustainability? And then she showed me JLR. And I'd always known about JLR, so I'm from really close by, so I've grown up around it. And so I was sort of thinking, well, yeah, I'd be interested in that. And I looked into it, and the more I looked into it, the more I realized how amazing an opportunity it was. So the reason why I chose a grad scheme is because of the flexibility and the ability to move around. So like I said, I've been in the race team. I'm now in Range Rover brand strategy. It's the only opportunity you'll get to do sort of 4 different jobs without having to worry about, you know, leaving or getting a new job. It's amazing. As everyone else has said, the pay is pretty fantastic as well. I can't complain about that. But really, the offer from JLR to get to move around and have so much freedom of movement, which is quite unique to JLR, was really what appealed to me the most.
Yeah, no, I think it is a really good point. We've mentioned you might not know exactly what you want to go into, so that moving around really helps. And it's useful for your experience as well. You've got a couple of years in your belt, but you've actually done a few different areas and roles and used different skills and built different experiences across all of those things. It just helps you to become a more rounded professional. I think then later in life as such, it just opens more doors than if you just went into a experienced higher role per se, and it was just this is your job and you will do this for the rest of the time until you decide to change into something else. And everyone's talked about salary, which is nice as well. I saw a question in the chat about accommodation and whether we provide it. We don't have sort of a JLR, a block of flats as such, or anything similar to that, but we do offer support with accommodation. We have partnerships, I think it's with Warwick University, one of them, which is local to our site, where there's a number of housing opportunities available through them that we signpost people towards that work out at quite a good rate for the area. We also have an online platform every joiner will use as well, where they can connect with other people. So all the time you'll see people posting that they've got 2 bedrooms left of a 5-bed house, and then people can sign up to that as well. But within that salary that's been mentioned, you start on 32 these days on a graduate scheme. You'll progress to 36 after a year, and you'll finish on 39,000 after 2 years, which is, I think, pretty good. And you get a £2,000 joining bonus as well when you start the grad scheme. So that definitely helps with that initial moving in, getting your bits of furniture. You can combine that with a high street discounts and stuff like that to help you out too. So just wanted to ask you, I guess, a general question. You've talked about experiences or some of the projects you've worked on, but overall, what has your experience been at JLR so far across it? Program, across the job role, and anything else you've been involved in? So we've got an order established now. David, I'll pass to you.
Yeah, so I think I've learned that I like to have variety. So my experience so far has been that I've been getting stuck into different opportunities as they come. For example, right now I'm involved with our community within industrial operations for early careers as the socials rep. So it's only recently I kind of joined that volunteer role, but basically I'll be starting to organize some like social activities within industrial operations. So that'd be outside of work. So I think that's a good prospect. But also getting involved in these events. But in terms of the work side of things, I think I've just learned through a lot of different kind of challenging projects, really. I feel like a lot of the projects I've been involved with, and there's been a lot of things that have kind of, been unforeseen or just, lots of challenges. But challenges are good because in that environment and that kind of in those circumstances, when we learn and gain skills, we learn to communicate with stakeholders and with our colleagues, get the support that we need, and also we learn the skills that we need to be able to address those challenges. And apart from that, it's being able to do my placements. I've done one so far, and in a pretty different role to my current one. And then my next placement is kind of a bit more tied into my current role, but still different department, and I'm looking forward to it, really, starting mid-November. So, yeah.
Amazing. I know you've been involved in a couple of these types of things before as well, and it just touches, as you say, like the variety really touches on the fact that you can achieve that at JLR. And also you mentioned about sort of learning from people, and that's a good thing. You're learning from industry experts. You might be in teams where you've got apprentices, undergrads, grads at the start of their careers, but also people that have been in it for 10, 20 plus years, and they've got lots they can teach you and help you grow and develop, but also they're there to learn from you as well. You're bringing in a fresh degree, fresh insights, etc., that they don't necessarily have. So it works both ways for sure. Amrita, your experience so far?
My experience has been fantastic. I think the best part of it is you're actually in a role. So you might think during a grad scheme you might get given projects on the side or sort of admin work, but actually no, pretty much from the get-go you're involved and you're a team member like absolutely everyone else. Your input is valued. They're not pushing you to the side. You're kind of asked the right questions, you're involved, you get challenged. Sometimes you might be flailing a little bit, but there's so much support behind everything. So I think an advice would be just to reach out and, ask the right questions when you need to. But that's what's been so lovely. It's you've gotten involved and you've networked with the right people. You don't ever feel like you're a grad per se. And the training, I think, is one thing that most people don't get. The grad scheme has the Ashbourne training, which is the whole year when you're in your first year. And that's so valuable, especially for people that maybe lack some confidence in things like presenting or understanding like the business as a whole. And even in your second year, I mean, we've got some new stuff coming through, which sounds really interesting next week. So that should be quite cool. Most people don't get that. I think it's that nice care that JLR provide, which has been really quite a positive thing.
Amazing. Thank you. And again, just really comprehensive and lots of different bits that you've been involved in and discussing. Yeah, the care piece really important as well. It is important to be looked after and feel like you've got those people around you and that help you. And I do think JLR is quite good at doing that. And Matt, finally, just over to you to summarise your experiences so far.
It honestly has been amazing the whole time I've been here. I think the best part about JLR that really sets it apart from a lot of other places is the trust, in that they really do trust you to, do your work, to do it well. When I started, I was thinking like, oh, I'm a grad, am I going to be making coffees and things? But within my first month, I had been put onto this huge project that my team was working on. And by the end of the second month, my manager had basically said, right, off you go. You can lead it. And I was just managing the whole project by myself, which was amazing. And then, of course, the whole time she was there to support me with anything I needed. But really, it was just she could see that I was capable of it. So she trusted me to do it. But I remember starting as well, I was saying to people like, so when do I go for lunch? And people were looking at me like, well, what do you mean? Because you just go for lunch. And if you need to go to the loo or want to get coffee, you can just go and do it. You're trusted to manage your own calendar. Some different teams have like set start times and finish times, but in the teams I've been in, it's always been, well, just start around these hours and then get your work done and then just finish when you need to finish. So really, the trust that's put in you is fantastic, just to really do your own thing and get your work done at your pace, as long as, of course, you get your work done. But it is that trust that I never expected that has been just absolutely amazing for me. But honestly, yeah, to summarize, it has just been a fantastic year, and I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Amazing. I think you touched on three really key points that I think I felt on my grad scheme as well, but three that I definitely see, which is trust, autonomy, and responsibility. That, yeah, the trust to get your work done and manage your own time, the autonomy to be able to work on projects, manage those priorities, and you can get a bit of direction and support, of course, when you need it as well. But ultimately, you're allowed to, work to your own schedule and complete the work that you need to. And then that responsibility, as you say, it's not just come in and observe your manager doing some different things for 2 years and go and do a coffee run or anything like that, which can still be a stereotype today of undergrad placements and grad schemes, apprenticeships as well. It's definitely not that. I know I got stuck into all sorts of different projects, and it sounds like the three of you have all done the same, which is amazing. So just a final question to each of you. Obviously, you went through the assessment process. It would have been 2 years ago, I guess now, to join our graduate scheme last year. What is one piece of advice that you would give to everybody that's online in general? So whether that is about preparing to apply, whether that is in a particular part of the process, or actually just joining a big company, what's one piece of advice you'd give everyone listening?
Yeah, so I think I had a few ideas down that I thought of, but I think the most important one is to know how capable you are. Just realize you are very capable. Like at this stage, obviously you're partway through your degree or your learning process and things. But once you graduated, I mean, even now you're very capable. But once you graduated and you come into a role like this, for me, it felt quite daunting, and I thought, I need to do this and that, and I need to know my role. But there's no expectation for you to go straight into your role day one and 100%. You know exactly what you're doing, get on with it, sort of thing. This is about your development. This is about so we go at you go at your own pace. There's a learning curve. You learn, you pick up skills, you learn step by step, and you're very capable. So I think that's my biggest bit of advice there. Just take things in your stride. And I know I was quite hard on myself, to be honest. Just my own nature, starting out and things. But yeah, like Matt said as well, it's really kind of trusting way of working as well. So just do what you've already been doing, of working hard and smart as well, and you'll fit right in, I think. So, yeah.
No, I think that is really good advice, and I think links to our overall sort of campaign sentiment. So our recruitment campaign is arrive as you are, achieve the exceptional, and I think it really touches upon that. You don't need to fit necessarily a certain mold or anything to join JLR. We want you for you and your skills and experiences and knowledge that you've got right now, and we're here to support you. Our schemes are all about growth, and we look for potential as opposed to expecting the absolute 10 out of 10 finished product from every single person that starts on a graduate scheme on day one. We're here to help you and hopefully have you achieve exceptional things during your time with us at JLR. So thank you for that, David. Amrita, a bit of advice that you would give to everyone listening.
I think I've got 2 points. The first one, whilst doing applications and interview, is do some reading about JLR, and the company website is really good, and it kind of lays everything out really lovely. But we use something called Creators Code, which is how a whole company works, and it's what we're sort of striving towards. And I think a good understanding of the Creators Code when you are applying can really help, because that's the thing that the interviewers, and when we're reading the questions on the application forms, that's what people are looking for. And it's really good advice just to align yourself with a company. So if you're thinking of examples of when you've done some work, if you kind of align it to your Creators Code, that's a really good way of ticking some boxes. And then the second point is, when you do finally get into a placement, it doesn't necessarily have to be here, is don't be afraid of questions. I think one of the things a lot of people think is, am I just going to sound a bit silly? Is this just, something I should know? But actually, you're never going to know unless you ask. And you'd be surprised how many people are actually willing to help. Some people really like talking, but those are the best people, because you get to pull out all this information. And if you wouldn't have been able to do that unless you ask. So questions are always good. I'd never shy away from questions now. I'm always the first one to be my hand up and spew out everything I've written in my notebook, because otherwise you're not going to learn. That's my key advice.
Yeah, that's really good thinking. We'll talk about the Creators Code in a minute, but definitely think ask questions. It can be hard sometimes. I think it feels a bit harder in the hybrid world when you're if you're chatting to someone so many times, it feels like, I've asked too many questions today and I'll just leave it. Whereas when you're in the office, it's a bit easier to catch people. But definitely ask all the questions, whether it is online or in person, because we're here to help you ultimately. And the more that you know, the more impact you're going to be able to have. So I think that's some really good advice. And Matt, to end us off on a piece of advice from yourself for everyone listening.
So my advice would be, at the stage you're at right now, just really focus on enjoying yourself, because when you do start into a career, your time becomes a lot more limited. And I know a lot of people, before they look to gain a job, they really focus on what training courses do I need to do? What skills do I need to develop? I think it's sort of like Sam said, come as you are and achieve the exceptional. All of the skills you need, you'll really learn on your degree, and then anything else JLR will teach you along the way through our development programs, or things you'll just pick up in your placements. So I would really say, obviously, do all of your research on JLR, really learn about the company if it's who you're thinking of applying to, because it'll be really helpful when you start. but also just really focus on enjoying this time that you have now and going out, gaining experiences that you might not gain when you're working in the corporate world. But really just go out and really just enjoy yourself for the next few months. And then when you come to JLR, you'll be fully ready and refreshed and ready to start your career.
Perfect. Thank you. Some really good advice there, I think, from David and Rita and Matthew. And thank you to the three of you for joining on this webinar today and just sharing a bit of your experiences and guidance that I think can really help everyone on the call. So before we finish, I'm going to talk a little bit through our application process. If you have got any questions, feel free to use the chat. And if you've got any questions for our three volunteers as well that are on the call, specifically about what they're doing, what they've been involved in, for example, or anything you've heard, then feel free to write that in the chat as well and ask at them. We're more than happy to answer your questions. So, yes, I will talk through our application process now. So there are 3 stages to get to the offer. They are all online. So it starts with an online application, first of all. With that, there's a couple of main things we'll be looking at. The eligibility bit is important. So the right to work, the fact that you're doing the right sort of degree and you're on track for a 2-2 or above, etc. And then the second bit is your motivation. So you don't need a CV and you don't need a cover letter to apply to us. You will see an option to attach them. It's just a system thing. I promise you that they don't get screened as part of your application, which, by the way, is done by a human team, not AI robots at the moment. So you don't need them. So don't waste your time making a specific cover letter for JLR and writing this amazing story of why you want to apply, because I promise you it's not needed. There are free text questions in the application itself. The main one is around your motivation and why you're interested in applying to JLR. So that's what we want to see. Is it something in our reimagine strategy that excites you? Is it part of the job description that you think I could really make an impact on based on what you've studied or perhaps experiences that you've previously got? We really want you to sell yourself in that application, and that is what's going to help you succeed. Once you have completed that, you will then go through to online testing. The online testing has 3 different assessments within it. So one of those is the situational judgment test. You will be presented with a bunch of different scenarios and responses to those scenarios, and you will essentially rank the effectiveness of those scenarios. It'll be really important to think about our creators code there and the way that we would act as a company, and I'll talk more about that in a second. The second one is Match 6.5 personality assessment. It is not as scary as it sounds. It is a bunch of different statements like I'm a curious thinker and various things like that. And you rank yourself, I think, on a scale of 1 to 9. And it's not a right or wrong type thing. It builds a personality profile of yourself. And then the final bit is aptitude assessment. So you've got your verbal, numerical, diagrammatic, and error checking exercises. We have a brand new employability hub that I think I've got a slide about in a minute, where you've got the practice test hub. You get sent that as well when you get to this stage, but you can have a go at some of these tests now and have a practice. And the more that you do that, I think it will definitely help you later on. So that is the online testing. And then you'll come to the virtual assessment centre. So this is the final stage. There are 2 parts involved in this. One is a presentation exercise. So you'll be given a general business topic. So it's not a specific technical project necessarily, or topic, sorry. You'll be given that topic in advance and you'll be asked to present back on that. How you choose to do that is completely up to you, whether that is with slides, Canva, something whizzy or verbally, completely up to you. But you'll present for sort of 10 minutes and then have about 20 minutes of questions. And I think within this, we want you to be really confident. So do your research, use credible resources, statistics, etc. Showcase your real passion and enthusiasm as part of this, and that you've enjoyed researching that topic and presenting the outcomes that you have, but really have that confidence and take your time with it as well. You've got a good amount of time in this part of the assessment. And then the next bit is the motivational and behavioural interview. So motivation piece to really build on what you've put in your application. So again, why are you interested in the particular role that you've applied for? Why at JLR? Because you could probably do that role at a bunch of different companies. And then maybe what interests you about the industry that we operate in as well. So really good chance to sell yourself to the interviewer there. And then the behavioural piece is based around our creators code, which is customer love, unity, integrity, growth, and impact. So you'll get a question on each of those essentially, and they are future focused questions this year. So what that means is you will be presented a sort of scenario, and you'll be asked to essentially answer, what would you do in that scenario? So they're a little bit different to the sort of tell me about a time when you did XYZ type questions. However, if you've been preparing for those beforehand, I still think that is definitely useful, because one of the best ways I think of answering that type of question is, if I presented a scenario about a project that you have to work on as a team, and I ask how you're going to go about setting tasks, delegating, and working as a team to deliver that outcome. If you've got previous examples of teamwork that you can use and say, this is how I went about it in this previous scenario and achieved XYZ, so applying that logic and experience to this scenario, I would do blah blah blah, I think will really help you out in that stage. When you've done that, you will get the offer. So that is the final stage. But this is the creators code I mentioned. The creators code is a set of code-created behaviors that we as JLR employees have created together, and they're essentially our values. So they guide the way that we work. So as I said, you've got your customer love, unity, integrity, growth, and impact. And that is very much the key theme that you'll be assessed against, and very much what we're looking for. We want people that will strive to act in way of that creators code essentially, and demonstrate that they love our customers, that they want to work as one, that they want to grow and make an impact on the organization, etc. You might have listened to that and thought, I'm going to need loads of experience. It sounds really scary, but don't worry, you don't. So for our grad programs, etc., we don't expect that you've got 5-10 years of experience in industry before you're applying to them. And when we talk about skills and experience, this can definitely come from a lot of different backgrounds. So whether that's what you've done in academic, perhaps at university, extracurricular activities or societies you might have been involved in at university, sports teams you could be in, part-time, volunteering, internships you might have completed already, million different things. They're all experiences, and it's about how you sell them is how you'll really make the impact. So I know that when I applied, I worked at Primark and I led some group projects at university within my modules, and I had a small amount of volunteering experiences, and those were, those are really basic things, but it was how I applied them essentially, which helped me get the job. So yeah, you definitely don't need to be a complete whiz and have got a million years of experience to do our graduate schemes. It is all about your potential. So this is our employability hub. I will put a link into the chat right now. But yeah, we're really invested in you and we want you to achieve the exceptional. So we would love as many of you as possible to be able to succeed through our assessment process. So this is a new page that myself and a colleague created. It's available on the website right now, and the link is in the chat. It has got a further breakdown of the application process that I've just discussed, the creators code as well. It gives you the ability to practice our online tests. There is a degree matching tool. I think I've shared it above in the chat. But if you're not sure what programs you can apply to based on your degree, then that really helps you. And there's so many top tips, things about using STAR methodology and all sorts of stuff on there. So if there's one thing that you take away from today, aside from hearing a bit more about us and hearing from some people on program about their experiences and their tips for you, then definitely check out this Employability Hub, because whether you apply to JLR or whether you apply to other companies, there's enough general knowledge and information on here that it will help you. And if you want to stay up to date with the latest news and information on our jobs and when they're going to close, etc., then definitely follow Life at JLR on social media. Particularly, I think following JLR's LinkedIn and following Life at JLR on Instagram are probably the two best sources for information, insights, stories about our people, and many other things. So that just leaves me to be able to move on to a Q&A section. There's a QR code on here which you can scan. Just takes you out the homepage of our website, which is where all our opportunities are. We'll dive into a bit of a Q&A, which I think Josh is going to direct from Career Map. Just before we do, though, if it's okay, I'm going to run two very quick polls. So the first one, I'm going to run the confidence poll again and just see if people have moved up the scale a little bit. So if you rank yourselves on how confident you are or not, that would be really great to see. And I'll just wait for some people to come through. Okay. And yeah, so we're getting a little bit of a split. Still a couple in not very confident. Hopefully I haven't taken you backwards during the last hour. So if there's anything else I can do to help, then do reach out. But we've got some very confident in there as well, which is good. And then the second poll is how likely you are to apply for a graduate program at JLR. So I'm just launching that poll right now. There's a few different responses you can choose from. Okay, straight in there with a very likely. That's more like it. That's good to see. Just let a couple more responses come through. I think there's some more for very likely, which is nice. There's an option for I've applied. There might be some people that have already applied to join us and hopefully learn a bit more about the next stage of their assessment process in this as well. But great, from what I can see, everyone is very likely. So we will definitely take that. That is good. Brilliant, Josh. I'll hand over to you for 5 minutes of Q&A.
Yeah, not a problem at all. And again, you've done a really good way of going through, answering people's questions as they've come in. I thought it was very insightful, so I hope everybody else did as well. In terms of questions, I actually have one for you guys. Well, for yourself, should I say? Obviously, with Jaguar Land Rover, JLR being quite a big company, I'd find it very daunting, to start that application process. Because obviously it's a big company, it's very renowned. Is there any kind of like piece of line of advice or anything like that, that you would say to people that are potentially applying? I suppose if you can find a question in there, it's just like, what would your best advice be for somebody starting that application process?
I think the fact that you don't need a CV or cover letter helps, because it can be, that's part of it being daunting, is if you want to be a really good applicant, you'll be tailoring your CV for the roles you apply to and be writing a cover letter, but you don't need to do that for JLR. So that saves you some time already, and that bit of barrier that sometimes prevents you from making the application. So you don't need that first of all. And then I think the second bit is to just, as I said, we don't expect you to be a complete professional with loads of experience. So just really think about the skills and experience that you've got at the moment and just pick out a couple of them and look at the job description, read that through and think, how could some of the things I've done already, be it my degree or be it those experiences, help me make an impact on that program? Add to that your motivation and any interest you've got in JLR and the particular program itself. And I think that, honestly, the application process is not that scary. We don't expect you to write a 10,000 word essay. In fact, I think there's a 200 word limit anyway. So I think, don't be too put off by it. Lots of people will imposter syndrome their way out of the application process before it even starts. So you don't need to write loads. It doesn't need to be the best essay in the world or anything close. Just share a bit of your skills and experience and why you're interested in the program, and you'll be fine.
Perfect. Just getting that kind of personality across it. That's key to a lot of things, really. I can see that Lila's put in a question. So how many grads do you take on compared to the number of applicants?
Yeah. So our roles are competitive. I will say that our graduate schemes are more competitive than our undergrad placements, if there are any first or second years on the call. So they are difficult. We take on, it varies every year. Previous year, we've took on, I think, over 350 graduates, which is a massive number. This year, it is a little bit less, but also because we've got so many undergrads returning from placements, it means the demand out there is less. I don't know the particular ratio of how many we take on versus the number of applications. As you can imagine, we've filtered people out at every different stage, but we do take a good number of grads overall. You're talking a couple of hundred per year. Yeah,
and that's still a very large amount in the grand scheme of things. As you said, it is competitive, so it's putting your best foot forward in terms of, may that be the experience you've got, or maybe just your personality as well. It just depends on what kind of application you are putting across. So yeah, please, we have got a couple more minutes, so please carry on with your questions. Another one from Lila. Do you use AI to filter people out? I think you already have answered this question before, but it'd be great just to reiterate.
Yeah, we don't at the moment, no. So we rely on trusty old humans to do our filtering. So no, we don't use particular bots that look for a certain word in your answers, and if you haven't got it, you get kicked out. None of that stuff. So it is just filtered by a human team. And in terms of, I guess it's a good point in terms of using AI in your applications and in the process. we don't have a specific policy against it as such. What I would genuinely advise you is ChatGPT is useful. It can really help you to get your thoughts together about applying or help you write things in certain ways and give you some ideas. So I'm not saying don't touch it or you won't get through, but don't just let it write your whole answer. Don't just put a small prompt in, say, can you write me an application to this role, and then just copy and paste the answer, because it is a human team. So if there's one thing they can do, it's that they can read if the same response comes through 50 different times. So I think use it to help you inform or think about things, but ultimately make sure you put your own flavour on that, because that authentic piece is important to us. And there's no point using AI to get all the way through the process, then coming up to an interview or a presentation you've got to prepare and not being able to actually deliver it. So use it where it's needed.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's coming back to that, getting your own personality across. If you're using AI or something like that to help with your application process, that can kind of take away who you are. So the best thing to do, obviously, as you've already rightly said, is use it as maybe a bit of context, maybe, to support yourself, but definitely focus on getting yourself across, if that makes sense. Now, unfortunately, we have run out of time, so I do apologise to the questions we've not been able to get around to. But I hope everybody in the chat, has found this really insightful. I know I have, especially, and thank you to JLR for going through all them questions and their offerings. It's been really, really good. Again, if you did miss anything, this was recorded and it will be on our website and our YouTube, so Career Map TV, over the next week or so. So yeah, thank you very much for everybody for joining. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.